Alex, can you tell us where you were in your life before American History X, before the audition, and what you went through to book this role as Mitch McCormick?
Okay. Well, first of all, I was broke. I had no money, no driver's license. I was living in mid Wilshire. I was in a very bad spot. I had been acting now about 5 years at this point, 5 or 6 years. I had not had any auditions for film yet. I had only gone to do things in like the theater, things through the Drama Log, Backstage West, and whatnot. Subsequently, my friend, my very best friend in the world at that time, was an actor who's become rather, prominently known. His name is Thomas Jane. We were very, very close. He auditioned. Wait, I got into the audition now. Is okay now? Okay, all right. Again, this is a little bit new for me. So, yeah, no. So he told me, I met this. I auditioned for this movie about an angry skinhead or whatever, and there was this British director, and he was very eccentric, and he was in the room, and he didn't seem to respond to my audition. He was referring to the director Tony Kaye, who directed American History X. He said, "I think this director would like you. I don't know why. He got that sense that somehow Tony Kaye was going to connect with me somehow, or respond to me, I guess, or my acting or whatever." Yeah. Anyway, so that's what life was like then. It was okay. To answer your question in short, life was very difficult. Broke, no car, no driver's license, no job, and trying to get auditions. It was pretty tough. Yeah.
So you take Tom's advice, you walk in that door for the audition?
No, what happened is Tom said he's in trying to figure out. At that time, they had not confirmed that Edward Norton was, playing the lead part in the movie, and he was doing these cattle calls. I guess apparently if that did not happen, or what direction they were going with the lead role, I don't know what. They had not figured that out yet, apparently. So he said they're going to do a cattle call. They're going to be doing these cattle calls between New York and Los Angeles, and he was doing one there and then doing one here, and it was on this day, and I got the information. And he told me where it was going to be, and he said, I happen to have the script because, I auditioned. And I said, well, and he said, I'll drop it off at your house. So the following morning, he came in the middle of the night. I was sleeping. I lived on the first floor. He put it in between my window and left it on my TV, the top of my TV set. And I woke up in the morning, and I went and I started making my coffee or whatever, and I look, and there is a script on the top of my television set. And it was just a weird moment where I didn't know what that was and why it was there. It was some kind of like Lord of the Rings moment or something, really weird. It was surreal because where I was in my life at that time and what that script wound up meaning for the totality of my life was insurmountable. I mean, because essentially what ended up transpiring from reading that story to the audition to then the relationship that I had with Tony Kaye for many years, for multiple years working, and since then just keeping in touch here and there. But we have had a relationship that has gone for years as a result of that. I just covered a lot of ground there really fast.
No, I'm loving it. I'm
Okay.
picturing this
Yes.
scene in this apartment.
Do you want me to keep going with that?
Please,
Yeah.
I want to know, how it all went down.
I actually, I had said earlier I did not have a job time. I actually had a job answering phones. That was I got a job way out in like Santa Monica somewhere where I had to get up and take the bus at 5 o'clock in the morning for minimum wage to answer the phone for this Farsi-speaking computer company. And I was the only American speaker, but they were wonderful people, and they were very religious, and they were amazing people. And this was you have to understand, being 24 at the time with no money, absolutely broke. Every dollar I made at this silly little job was going to every amount of living expense I had, so there was no spare. It was just a difficult time, needing friends to help me out and whatnot. So when this audition came up, I thought, this is unbelievable, because so first of all, let me get back to the story though for a second of reading that script. I had a very long, difficult, complicated, childhood, in and out of the juvenile hall systems and all this kind of stuff. My brother's name is Danny. When I opened the script, and I had gone through a very similar cathartic, emotional experience in my life, dramatic in nature, very much similar to the dramatic nature of the spiritual shift in the character in the story. So when I read the script, it was overwhelming, the emotion that came over me, that was not only what was going on in my life personally at the time, but also the fact that my brother and I mended a lot of stuff after I moved here and found a new way to live, right? So it was a powerful experience. So I could not wait for the opportunity to express whatever, these feelings were at this audition. So I had no idea what the audition was going to be. So I asked the Iranian family that ran the company if they would allow me to leave work, because I explained to them, and I sat and I talked to the man. He's a very religious man, so you can imagine this was with a very long, with the beard and the whole thing. And I went into his office and said, "Sir, if I could go out, do this thing. I'm an actor. I've been trying to do this." He got the woman that worked there to give me a ride. He permitted me and drove me there. When I get there, there's a line going. It's a building on Wilshire Boulevard near San Vicente, in that area, over there where there's a pavilions right nearby. And it was I believe on the third floor. There's a line going out the door, and everyone is getting a number. And when you walk into the building, you're greeted by the casting director that says, "Okay, listen, this is director's. He's a little bit, does things a little differently. He's got a camera set up there. When your number's called, you're gonna walk in front of the camera, and you're going to do whatever you do, whatever you're, gonna show Tony or whatever." So now I knew this was going to be improvisational in nature, and I had already read the script. So I knew one key pivotal point in the story. That is that there was this scene that the lead character does to the news cameras when he discovers that his father's been killed. His father was a firefighter and his father died, so the media is reporting him, and he has this huge emotional outburst. And he's right into the camera, and he's pointing into the camera. And I knew that was in the material. So what was happening inside of the audition room was Tony was calling people up, and he would say, "How do you feel about white power? Go." And the actor would start talking, this, that, the other, and cut. Next. And it was going literally like a firing squad, like that one. And of course, you can imagine sitting there, aware that you're about to go up there. The room is full. Everybody's watching everybody's audition. So you can understand there's 100 people in the room, and everybody's watching you get just wiped out. And I said, had everything, nothing to lose. I figured, anyway, he called me up. I looked at him. I saw him when he walked in the room, and I thought, that's about what I thought a director looked like. Real tall, scary, bald, and intimidating presence. Very interesting. This man walked into the room, and I thought, that's a director. I go up, and I came from a school and a man that taught acting that was very, very, very intense. And he pushed it to the limit, and it was about risk, and you put it all and sort of leave it all on the field, so to speak, right? And the idea was that you have to commit all the way. All the way. No hesitation. Make your choice and you go. Launch. No fear. You face whatever fear is there and you spring anyway and take it all the way as far as you can within your choices. So when it was my turn to be called up I thought, I don't know what's about to happen here, but my heart was pounding very, very fast, and I don't know what question he was going to ask me. I had had an experience the day prior where I was sitting on the bus, and a mother and her son he was like 2.5, and she was, I would say, abusing him, hitting him, and I had witnessed the whole thing, and he fell and he was crying and he was in need and she wasn't really helping him, and then the bus came up and I was about to say something and I didn't, and I wanted to say, and I had all of these feelings about that, right? So I plugged into that feeling from that experience, and I said, I'm going to vent the anger, rage, whatever, if need be, I'll use that in this audition. So Tony walks up and he doesn't look at me. He gets behind the camera and he's looking at changing the film thing or something. And my heart was beating and I was so nervous, and I couldn't, and I just looked at him and I said, how you doing, man? And he looks up and he goes, fine, or whatever, and he kind of looks down, and I go, because I was at this point kind of, my nerves were overwhelming me. So I just said, and I don't know what, this just kind of flew out of my mouth. I just, in a real intense sort of way, I said, do you have something that you need to ask me? And I knew that got his sort of attention there, because he looked up from the camera with a real intense look on his face, and he got real excited, and he goes, how do you feel about white power? And got all excited, and then I guess I used all that, and I just, I did the audition or whatever, and I just went for it, and just, I guess it went very well, because, subsequently everything that happened after that changed my life, because I went on to work with him from that point forward. I was cast in the movie. Well, I should tell you the whole story, right? The whole progression of it, right?
So I'm assuming you booked the role right there, Alex?
No,
Okay,
no. What happened was, he was very, I got very intense. The audition was going very well, in the sense that I connected that emotion to that anger I had to that mother, and the rage, having my own issues with some of that stuff as a child, and putting that all in that moment. I just used that to imagine that I was talking to the media reporter that was asking me about the dead father in the script. So I took the opportunity to make Tony talking to me being a news reporter, as if I'm doing now the audition here into the camera, because I was talking to the cameraman, that my father, and I was just using that sort of to express the rage that this movement of neo-Nazism or whatever is coming, and we're justified, and all this ignorance that I was, having to portray, and that's how I did that. And then when he just kept filming it, and it didn't stop, I just had to keep going. I didn't even, at some point I was like, when is this going to stop? Is I have to keep, generating this improvisation. So it was just like, and I said, he stumbled because he was holding the tripod. And then they're getting, he said, no, keep going, get in the light. Because I stopped, I said, do you need me to say, no, get in the light. And I just kept going and going. And then he said, great, I got it. And I said, great. And I walked away, and he said, hey, he said, thank you. And that was, I looked at him and I said, you're welcome. And I floated out of there. And I did, at that point, I didn't care that I had gotten the part or not. I knew I did something. Do you understand what I'm saying?
You affected him?
Yeah, no, I knew I did something of which I could be proud. And that is vitally important, especially having ongoing understanding of how to be an actor in this business. You have to understand the difference between obtaining the success, whether you book the part, and what you actually can be proud of what you did in the room are actually two different things. The results will come for many circumstances that are way out of our hands, but that one thing that you can do, which is a performance to be proud of or an audition to be proud of. I felt that happened, and it was a pretty neat feeling.
Did you take the bus back to work, or did the people come?
No,
pick you
I
up?
took the bus back home, just really floating. I didn't even get on the bus right away. I walked to the pavilions, and I just sat down, because you have to understand, at this point, life was beating me, right? I mean, I lived in this cubicle, tiny 300 square foot apartment. I was just got a hold of that little job. It was just, life was very, very challenging at this particular point. You have all of the insecurities. You know, my friends had started to work, which I was very happy about, but you start feeling those feelings of insecurity, of what's going to happen here, where does this go? And yeah, so it was a very cathartic, it was an unbelievable moment. And then you had to fill out your name card in this whole thing, and I forgot to write my phone number. So I left the audition, and I thought, well, that's too bad. A week went by, and I didn't hear anything. And I knew something happened in there. And so anyway, I had left my information. 3 weeks has gone by now, and I've heard nothing. And now at this point, I let it go. But that's still, that sense that I did something well still remained with me. So I wasn't like disappointed or anything, because I had no real expectations. Then I get a phone call from Thomas Jane, and he wakes me up, and he says, "Hey man, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "What do you mean? What am I talking about?" They're calling. They're trying to find you. You didn't put your phone number on the audition card, you idiot. He said they've been trying to get a hold of you. The director really liked your audition, and he wants to bring you in to read for the role, the lead role. At that time, I guess they had not officially signed Edward Norton or a name actor. So I guess that was still in play for a moment there. So it was an unbelievable moment, that phone call. And then, like, you got to get a script. You're going in next week. You're going in. The director's in New York. He's going to come in. You're going in to read. And it was just crazy, because I had never really auditioned for anything. I mean, it had to do with the movie. I just, at that point, just done all plays. So I didn't know what that meant. So I got this, and I just worked on it day and night. And when I went in, I went in. It was that same scene with the firemen that talking to the news reporters, and it was an extremely. I got there, and when I went in to read, I took a breath, and again I was there. I was in the right place emotionally, and it was the audition was fantastic, went well. It was I was very emotional, and then the Edward Norton subsequently signs on to the movie, but they call now Tom's manager, who's not yet my manager, but who then became my manager after that audition, because success has more fathers and failure has none, right? So when you start succeeding, suddenly you start acquiring here. That's another thing you must prepare yourself for. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But keep yourself in line here, and keep yourself and your craft close to your heart, and don't weigh your value upon whether others approve of. You must be proud of who you are and your work to survive in this business, I believe, in the long term. Anyway, moving forward.
So you booked the role that second
No,
time?
so I did the audition. Then they said, "Hey, Edward signed on to the movie. Edward Norton signed on to this movie." I wasn't in SAG yet. I had done nothing, no credits, zero. So this was all for me like a dream or something. You understand? It was like even being in this process at this point for me was unbelievable. Like a dream was coming true, from nothing, literally nothing. I can't even get on a bus on time to now I'm in a studio auditioning for a role. It was overwhelmingly amazing feeling. And yeah, so I did that, and then they said they really responded. She signed me as a client, so she orchestrated then the next callback, which they said they're bringing you back in. So actually now I had someone to talk to about acting. It was really bizarre. I went from nothing to now I have like a manager, and like, whoa, this is really weird, right? It was really weird. So then I went 2 weeks later. I went to Stacy Keach's part. I had to audition. They were auditioning me for that. I walk in the room, and this was definitively, for my whole entire career, will be the defining, most joyous moment that I have ever experienced in my whole artistic life. Was that moment when I went to the final callback to do the scene that Stacy Keach does with Edward Norton in the at his house there after Edward Norton's come out of prison or whatever in the movie. No, so I was being such a intense young actor that acting was everything. I was so prepared and so involved in that final callback because I knew that I was very close to having my first opportunity to be a professional actor, if you will. You know, that this was an opportunity and it was close. And I had as an intense actor, and I was so nervous that when they called my name, I had on a trench coat. I was dressed like the character. I had my combat boots on, my green skinhead trench coat, you know, my wife beater. I was working out every single day, and I couldn't handle the idea of walking in the room and talking because I knew I wasn't going to be able to do that. I wasn't going to be able to walk in there and just start chit-chatting and then get into it. I was too there, if you will. So what ends up happening is I storm in the room. Now looking back in hindsight, it was a bit theatrical, and I don't even know how they processed it really. But I walk in the room and I declare, and I start taking off my trench coat, and I look to the casting director and I said, "Who am I reading with? Tell me who I'm reading with. Come on, I want you to tell me right now who am I reading with?" And my hand is shaking a little like that. And she immediately gets very serious and says, "You're reading with him. He'll be taping your audition." I said, "Okay, are you ready? You ready? Okay, you guys ready?" And I just took over this sort of, all being driven by my terror, obviously, my absolute fear. But no, it was amazing. And then they taped it. I put my feet up on the desk and began the scene, and then it went really well. And when it was over, I felt like I had done what I needed to do. Like whatever, it happened. I trusted, I breathed, and I allowed that audition to sort of flow. And I flip my paper like that, and I said, That's that. And they said, "Great job, Alex." All the people, 10 people, great job. I said, great, thank you. John Morrissey, or one of the two producers, I forgot the other one's name. How terrible of me. One of those two gentlemen that produced the movie, one of them looks to me and says, "So Alex, let me ask you a question. Do you have a girlfriend?" And I thought at that moment, because I had a very bizarre experience earlier in my journeys with a low-level B TV producer that invited me to his house for dinner, and then tried to, with his other friends, and tried to make sort of a not so subtle advance for work. And I actually did experience that and had to turn that freak show away. So I thought in this moment when he asked me that, I thought, this is insane that this is happening at this level. Come on. right? Like, give me a, and so I said, so I rather defensively said, no. I said, no, I don't have a girlfriend, no, but I do have a lot of friends. Thinking I was sending a message or a boundary, right? I don't know. I was keeping it all very low key. I didn't know what his intent was with the question, to be very honest with you, but it was a little weird. And he said, well, no, I'm sorry, this is how it went exactly. No, he said, do you have a girlfriend? And I said, no, I don't have a girlfriend. And I was still, you have to understand, with the character and just had done the audition. And he says, well, do you have any friends? And I said, yeah, I've got a lot of friends. And my friend had actually driven me to the audition so I could focus. And he said, why don't you go? Now you got to understand the backdrop to this. I had 5 years of, it had been very difficult. So he looks at me and he says, well, why don't you go call your friends tonight, because we're putting you in this movie. And if there is a moment in life where you feel some kind of unbelievable good fortune, or a dream come true, I guess would be the word, considering the amount of uphill fight it is to become an actor, right? To have that moment for anyone. And I don't think that ever changes for any actor as long as they go. I think every time you get that, you got that part. There is just nothing better and more gratifying than that moment. And yeah, it was pretty incredible.
You've since retired from acting. I can still see that you have a passion for the craft. It sounds like, because I remember I talked with you a couple years ago and you had said that trying to be a working actor in this town is like chasing fool's gold or something to that effect. And that always stayed with me. I'm probably paraphrasing.
No, because the idealism and the passion that you have for acting when you're young and you're starting and you're in your early 20s and it means everything to you. It's life and death. It was that way for me and my friends anyway, the people that I was coming up with and studying with. The desire to express yourself was so, and the passion for acting was born out of something that was really pure. And you did it from all these, sometimes for your passions, your views, political, personal, whatever. You put it all into this art, right? But as you get into the business and you start going down that path, you start to understand that this is a business, and to become there's many levels to success in this business. You can become the leading man, you can become the bit actor, you can become the character actor. There's many paths. What I meant by that statement, that sometimes it's like chasing fool's gold, is you wind up doing all of this work and love of art and the craft and to then end up doing nachos commercials, right? And that becomes your day. That's part of the reality of sometimes being a professional, mainstream working actor. Not a famous one, not one that but that you grind out your living year after year in the business. That was my reality. I made between 65 and 130,000 a year for about 16 years. That is a different story than being a guy that's on a show or books something. That's a very different narrative. It's a very different lifestyle. It's a very different anxiety that you have to live with. So you have to wake up at the start of every year at zero. There is no security. You don't have a show. You don't have a job. You're on your own to go out and get your work. And that's why it's so pivotally important that you know yourself so well and are comfortable and confident in who and what you're trying to do, and that you nurture that. Nurture that, because no one outside of that is going to give you anything. You have to go out and get it, and nobody's looking to hire people that when they walk in the room are being asked, of the people, please make me feel okay. They want to hire the person that walks in the room and says, I'm here to make you feel okay. I do my job for you. You have to own that. You have to have that to have a career. So it's a very tough life once you're trying to have a life, pay your bills, and be a professional actor and face the rejection you get 5 auditions a week, you book none of them. Week after week after week, you have to learn to psychologically and emotionally adjust to that. So that out of that, people become desperate. People start then just chasing, obsessively the commercial or the concept of booking, something where you're having to spend the day with a tire around your belly and flip-flops while you're selling Vaseline commercial, whatever it becomes. That's what I meant by fool's gold. Some of the things we have to do, I think, get quite ridiculous.
I want to go back to something that you just said, because that was really magic, in that you're supposed to be the person that goes into that room trying to make them feel good, not about it being in the reverse.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to realize that?
At the end, the whole thing's over now, and I realize it now. I realized that after. That was my failing, my shortcoming in this business, was that I asked people to take care of me as opposed to me taking care of them. My insecurities, my uncomfortabilities, my neuroses, my stuff is not in the professional world appropriate. You understand what I'm saying? Now, you learn how to mask these feelings and how to mask these things, but they see. Everybody sees. You think you're hiding those things, but the bottom line is, and I'll tell you, amazingly, I talked to Marlon Brando once through Tony Kaye. I did that workshop that Marlon Brando did, where there was Tony and his people walked out because one of Tony's people was asked to leave. I was in the room that day. But in that class, Marlon Brando said, when you're on the set and he said this, he was speaking to the students in the class. I was one of the students or whatever. He said, you can always tell on the set who's the person that's being disrupted by the person moving the lights and focusing on everything else other than focusing on the moment and the task at hand. You can always tell who that person is. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, what I learned is, yes, so I just took 20 minutes to answer a very simple question. You asked me, when did I learn that? I learned it at the end of my career.
So knowing that, Alex, knowing that it's about giving to the audience instead of what can the audience give to you,
right.
Then why not press the reset button and try over again with that knowledge?
Well, first of all, because first of all, because I'm retired now, and so that's really not, I've taken my pension, and I guess there is a path back, and I also, unfortunately, in 2004, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I have that, and I deal with that. So that really began at the end to impede a little bit also in some of my professional life. So it's a confluence of things happened, but I learned a lot leaving it all. You know what I'm saying? I learned probably more when I took a breath and walked away from it all and took a look at it from a bird's eye view. I saw things now very clearly that, that I would do differently. And I've grown a lot since I left it. So why don't I reset it is because that's it. I've closed that door. Right. I guess maybe I can do a student movie or something, or I can go just be in a movie. But for money, it gets a little complicated because I'm on my pension and everything.
But you said earlier Success has many fathers, failure
Yeah.
has none. Can you tell me about
That's not exactly how the saying goes,
Okay.
but I got the
What's
saying
that
is
about?
I think the saying is success has many fathers and failure is an orphan. I think
Okay.
that Kennedy said that, I believe.
Okay. And how is that
Uh,
applicable to acting?
oh wow, that's the whole business in a nutshell. That that statement. You here are alone. Period. Until you begin to book, make work, then everyone shows up. People begin. That's the way it is. That's just the name of the game. That's the reality here. You are isolated until you start to make it. No one is interested in you, and it's unfortunate because the way this city is developed, it's really hard to be a young actor. You're in a competitive environment constantly. Your friends are gauged on what you do or don't do. Those dynamics start getting into play. Now you have friends that start working, you don't work. They work, you start working, they don't work. There's these jealousies things that start happening.
So people want to come in and be a part of what you're doing once they see that there's dollar signs attached to
Yeah,
your
but
work.
that's
Okay.
but that's like
I get
anything.
it.
It's a
I get
job.
it.
It's a that's it. You know, I didn't get a call when I signed with Stone Manners. I didn't get a phone call from Scott Manners until I had booked. I went through a thing where I went on 3 auditions in like 10 days for guest stars, and I booked all of them. And then the third one, the next day, I got a call from him. That's just the way it is.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. So, what would you tell a young actor who's now at that breaking point? Let's suppose they'd struggled for a little bit, no one returned their calls, they couldn't get a waiting tables job with a headshot. But now all of a sudden, stuff's happening for them. What type of precautions, what type of advice would you give them? Maybe their parents don't know anything about the business, so they can't really advise
How
them.
old are they?
I don't. Let's just say maybe they're mid-20s, and things are starting
How
to
long
happen.
have they been doing it?
I mean, I'm literally making up this composite human being. Let's suppose
Okay, like
you're
24.
looking at yourself.
Okay, what would I say? In what
95 or
situation?
whatever.
In what?
Suppose you could have been this mentor to yourself back when this was all happening. What would you tell yourself then?
That part of it I was good with. The no that okay. See, myself personally, the my life, that journey, that struggle was beautiful, and I didn't know it or appreciate it at that time. That process of being embroiled with yourself and life and the struggle of obtaining something, you know, I used to hear the cliche that is, you know, in books, or you know, you hear per se, it's the journey and whatnot, and you hear that and you think, yeah, right, you know, tell that to somebody else. But then when you do look back and you really look back at the process and what was going on at that time, that battle was amazing. And the growth, the personal growth, the self-revelation, the struggle, the battle with your ego, with yourself, if all of that was 100% vital and worth it, the struggle to keep it about the beauty and about the truth was the struggle that was worth you know, fighting for. If you really are an artist that really wants to say something because you believe that's what you have to do, then I would say to you, double and triple down and put yourself into it like your life depends on it. If that's your calling, if you feel that that's your passion inside of you, then risk it all for it. All, you know, all in with pride and with joy. But don't be delusional. Check yourself and know your ego and know what you're really trying to obtain. And if you're here because you think this is going to fix you, or this is going to, if this is all being driven by vain ambition, I don't think those people should stay on that path, because I think they'll run into a long-term a life of frustration. They'll run into a wall of nowhere. I think essentially you have to love this thing. You have to love it with every bit of your being if you're going to try to really give it a go. And if really giving it a go means full commitment. If it is a burning desire inside of yourself that you have you have the instincts and the passion to pursue this and give your life to it, and it is a sacrifice. I mean, there is people. I think a lot of people think that when they see these actors that make it, and that these people just come here and fly off an airplane and then suddenly they're in movies. That does happen for a very small group of people. That is reality. Somebody's that's going to happen to. But the longevity of that and the course of that, where that goes, is usually it peters out very quickly and whatnot. The fact of the matter is, if you're an artist and you're an actor, you'll stay here and find a way to make this work in your life, and you'll give everything to it. If that's not your calling and you're chasing you're chasing somehow working in movies because you think you're going to be famous or something like that, and that is your sole objective, I usually don't see that working out for anyone.
No. You touched on something earlier that was beautiful, and you said that you are judged by what your friends do and don't do, and that's something I really want to touch on. So let's go back to, let's say, the mid-90s, 24, whatever, and things are starting to happen for you. What would you advise another up-and-coming actor on friendships within the industry, people maybe that aren't making it and you are, and their attitudes towards you, and how to handle that? Maybe you're close friends with someone, or in the reverse. How is one to handle that? Because there's not really books on that anywhere, and I think it's an unspoken thing that happens, and I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I don't know. You mean how do you deal with if you're working, and how do you deal with the friends that are
maybe aren't working?
Well, I think there's nothing you can really do, but
maybe they stop calling.
Well, then
maybe things happen.
Then yeah, there's nothing. Just like in life with anything else, you have to tell the truth, right, and be yourself. And I guess you can't really control what other people do. And if they are, you have to kind of just accept it. I guess as part of it, you have to kind of learn how to see that without over personalizing it. You have to really compartmentalize that stuff and just say, oh, I understand that person's having that experience and it's not personal, and let it go. It's very challenging if you're in that situation. But I don't see that being over predominant,
Mm-hmm. What if
problem.
You are the one having the experience? Let's say your friends are booking work and you're not, and you were talking about the ego, and everybody that comes into this business is fragile in some sense.
The way I always looked at that, and the way I always felt inside, is I'm not going to become imprisoned by jealousy and where my life should be in comparison to someone. What a waste of your own life to be sitting around going, I'm going to be unhappy because someone else is gaining something that I would want, and I'm going to spend my days and nights in my life, my one shot on this earth, feeling unhappy for them. Is that going to change the outcome of me obtaining that or not obtaining it? No. So why not be happy, and just why not celebrate their success? And if your journey on this earth is supposed to go in that direction and you're doing everything right for yourself, then what comes for you, and you should be proud of that and accept what that is. And that's the way I try to look at it. Just I'm not in a competition with others. I'm in here to do my next audition well. That's my next job, not what somebody else is doing. So that's how I try to view it.
Do you think that's a prevalent attitude? Do you think a lot of people hold that here?
No, no, I don't. I don't think that my cat's wanting to jump on my leg right now, so I'm just going to do that, and then we're going to. He's purpose. This cat was in a commercial with me.
Oh, okay.
That's how I got this cat.
Right. Alex, I understand that you may owe one of your acting roles to the late Paul Walker. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I don't know what the exact context of how that all played out was, but as I was told, that there was they were doing this movie called The Lazarus Project in Canada, and I guess they had hired two of the smaller parts. This part, it's when he goes on to do the robbery. His brother brings an associate along to help them do the crime, and they had casted the brother and the associate from Canada, and I guess apparently Paul Walker saw them on the set and felt that it wasn't working or whatever, the chemistry, and they had hired locally, so they put up a new casting to bring two actors from Los Angeles, and so they reposted it. So yes, by virtue of him apparently saying he doesn't want those actors, I got hired when they did the casting here.
So you were in LA, you saw the casting notice, or your agent told you about it.
Right.
And they flew you to Canada?
Yeah.
When you were on the set of the Lazarus, Alex, when you were on the set of the Lazarus Project, what did you observe working with Paul Walker? What did you see in him in terms of being a director?
No, you mean, he wasn't the director.
Oh, he wasn't. Okay,
no,
sorry.
he was. No, he didn't want. He wanted the other. The director brought in the other two actors. He wanted to replace those actors. Gotcha. He directed that, I guess.
He directed that, right? Yes. What did you witness from him on the set? Like, how did he handle himself? And
I mean, like anyone
just
else.
like
a pro, doing his work and just doing his job. And he was very gracious and very nice and welcoming and very very professional.
Sure. So you eventually start driving a cab. You buy a cab and you start a business for yourself. And
I didn't buy. I rented. I rented a taxi from a Russian owner that owned the taxi, and I paid a premium to have it every week. And I drove and picked up fares and had a job as a Los Angeles County certified taxi driver.
And you enjoyed it.
I loved it.
What did you love about it?
The freedom. I loved what happened was I had become so wrapped up in a career for so many years that and I was so dependent on others to give me a sense of self-reliance. That became an anguish for me to not be able to control my own destiny every morning that I woke up. Became something that became intolerable for me at some point. That groveling to your agent or hoping that they call, or the insecure, meaning they're going to return my call because I have a question and I need it answered, and they don't because you didn't, you're not on the priority list. And you have to deal with those things as everyone does, but they became very and the inauthenticity of the business sometimes and the interrelationships of that became something that I didn't enjoy. You see, you have a lot more autonomy as an actor when you're a series regular on a show, or when you've made it or whatever. It's a different landscape than when you're a working actor. The two landscapes are different. So yes, I found a lot of this new world that had refound itself to me, which was myself, my control of my own destiny. If I want to make money today, I get in a taxi and I make money. If I want to take my wife out for dinner and I don't want to, because a residual check didn't come in the mail, I can do that. I don't have to wait for my agent to tell me what to do, when to do it, how to do it. I would just go do it. And I enjoyed that. And the freedom of driving and talking to people and the whole novelty of it.
So you were still trying to book roles though at the same time, or no?
Yes, I was working through this. As a matter of fact, I started booking work like crazy simultaneously with the taxi, and I think because I got some pressure relief from I think something to do with the fact that I knew there was something else I could do, gave me a less of an attachment to the acting, right? That I was able to let that go enough to actually start doing better work, essentially. And I wasn't as wound up at the audition, as much pressure on myself. So it kind of released that pressure enough for me to start doing better with my with my acting. So yeah, I started working and driving the cab to the set and parking it proudly, and rapping from a huge set and getting in my cab and driving fares, and I loved it. I loved every bit of it.
And so you think that the casting directors sensed maybe less, and I don't want to call it desperation, but really,
Yes.
but
No,
in sense
absolutely.
that,
Yes. Less something. I don't know what that something is. That's something that people feel. Even in life, when you feel someone wants something too much, just that same
Yeah.
transference of energy, I think, is very, very much prevalent in an audition. So, yes. Also in the way you function and operate. Suddenly the confidence of having I would say confidence is the word, because suddenly having the taxi became a way to feel like I don't need you as much anymore. You see, I don't need this. I'm here to do this. I'm not here in need of it. I have the taxi. So I'm not interested in this anymore. And suddenly that Murphy's Law of life applied here. Yeah.
and it's something that can't be faked.
No, that can't be faked. No, if you can't fake, you can't fake pretending that it doesn't matter. They see that. I mean, when you pretend that this doesn't matter, that's an act, and if it's real, it's real. If it's genuine, it's genuine.
So you would say maybe to other actors, as cliche as find a hobby, or something, find some outlet, whether it's a family, whatever, something that you can hold on to so that you don't feel that role is going to make or break sort of who you are?
Yes, absolutely. I would say that when I was happiest as an actor, it was when I was able to work on my audition, right? And then I would have to mentally tell myself, this turns off at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's over. I don't think about this thing again. I bust my ass on this audition from 7 in the morning till 5. That's my time. I'm allotting that time for this work. When that 5 stops, I now focus mentally and emotionally on others, my life, my friends, my people. You have to do that. If you're going to mentally, you know what I'm saying, hold on, you have to have that separation and that autonomy. It's very important, yes. To find a way to turn it off and have something else that grounds you, because the uncertainty of trying to become an actor or sustaining an acting career, or even once people have careers, those pockets of time of not doing things, in this business are treacherous. I mean, you're not in control of when you're going to do what you're going to do most of the time. That's a fact. So yes, it's important to have that outlet, I think, yes. Yeah, certainly.
Alex, what separates working professional actors from those waiting tables? Where's that point where someone crosses over?
I don't know. I don't know, because if you can have, I drove a taxi. I was an okay actor. It's a very difficult question to answer, because a person waiting tables very well could be a working actor. I think the only difference between them is that one is working, the other one isn't, and the reason why is not definable, because if the man waiting tables has no agent, no opportunity, no nothing, that's the difference. I mean, opportunity is all in this business. When your chance in that room presents itself, you either take it or you do not. And that either becomes your job or it doesn't. That's the only power you have. That line between action and cut, or start of audition and not, is the only place you have any control. Outside of that, it's I think a matter of opportunity and a matter of talent and what you do and when you're given the opportunity.
From your bird's eye view, why would you say many fail at being working actors in LA? From what you've observed, now that you have this new vision from stepping away and less emotion being tied
from the people that I have seen that have gone on to become is an engrossment in what they do. A complete the people that I have seen and learned from and met in this business that have gone on to do some real substantial things, one of the common threads that I have seen in all of them is in that preliminary first few years, they went at it like their life depended on it. They went after it like their life, like if they didn't, they were going to die. Or they weren't going to, there's nothing else to do but to do this day and night. I want this, and I'm driven, and I'm passionate, and I love it, and I get into it. And that, whether that means you're going to make it or not, I don't know for sure, but I've certainly noticed that that's a common thread amongst the people I have met that have become successful. Fundamentally, the most common thing you would get at the beginning before you got somebody really excited for you for whatever reason is they would open the meeting like this. You know, I don't really have a place for you. I don't really have a place for you. This is the opening of the meeting. So you sat down, hey Alex, how you doing? Great, nice to meet you. So you were in America? Yes, yeah, did this little thing. Yes, great. Oh, I love that director. Yeah, me too. He's great. And fundamentally, you just really want to say, so listen, what are we doing here? What's the point of this? Do you want me? Do you not want me? I want the meeting to go like that. What do you want to do? I wish it was more direct, but anyway, so the opening statement would be this. Then we'd get through all the niceties, and then I'm not going to be able to take you. And then we go on for another 40 minutes of a meeting. That's a real horrible feeling. Because at that point, for me, I just want to say, you know what? That's cool. I respect that. That's your choice. I'd like to leave now. But you can't do that. So you have to sit there and do this ridiculousness for another half an hour as you're sitting there going, I have to talk to you after you just told me you want nothing to do with me. So, yeah, so those were annoying things.
My worst audition taught me ...
Nothing. No, I don't know. My worst audition taught me that it was worse than the one before.
Anything that you could glean from
No.
it? Like any life lesson?
No, because they stink for a variety of reasons, and you never know why on any given day. But like I said, fundamentally, they can stink a lot of the time because you get in your own head. That's the problem. When they stink, when you do it yourself, sometimes they stink because they just do. The energy's off. It's a little weird. The people are in a bad mood in the room, whatever. But sometimes they really do stink because you have problems and you get in your head and you make self-made problems that don't need to be there. So yeah, that can be troublesome.
The toughest part of living in Los Angeles?
The toughest part of living in Los Angeles. I think that one of the hardest parts of living in Los Angeles is I think it's that things are very far apart, okay? And people are very far apart here. Things are spread out and people are very, homebound. I think the lack of community for me, the lack of family, and the lack of those kinds of bonds where you have in the original places that we come from. LA is a city of people coming from other places, so their roots are elsewhere. So there's not a lot of roots here. Here it's an amalgamation of people. So people are here to work and do things. So there's not a lot of community, if you will. So it can be a little lonely. It can be lonely, I would say.
Alex, when you teach actors, what lessons are you trying to drive home to them? Whether creatively, personally?
If I'm directing a play, I'm trying to show the person that's doing the part, the work, that there is a difference between acting something and being a human being and experiencing something, sharing yourself. What I'm trying to say is, if you want to, from what this was for me, why I got into it was the notion that I could honestly share of myself with other people. That human transaction was what it was all about, period. End of story. That's what it was about. So when I direct a play, I try to maximize the human experience of being a person, and what that really feels like and what that really sounds like is very different when someone's telling the truth versus I'm clever and I know how to act something. And that experience, when you have the human experience, it transcends like that's a good actor. It transcends that became you affected me personally. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that, what I would say is get real with yourself and tell the truth in your work. That's what I would say.
How does someone get real with themselves? Maybe they've grown up in a household of denial, or they.
I don't know how. No, that's their own personal journey, or their. I wouldn't have the internal work that you have to do as an artist, or whatever one does to become an actor. Whatever I would recommend reading those common books, the Stanislaw, the work of an artist, the journey of an artist. That's personal to every person. I don't have any format for that. So I would say the getting real is getting real, telling the truth through a character. Meaning you're going to have to know yourself very well, I think, to be a good actor in the end. I think good actors know truthfully who they are inside, because that truth allows them to play any given situation from a point of view of what is the truth, right? That's more compelling than acting. I don't know if that answered.
It does. What if they've always been taught, put on a smiley face, be happy, don't show any negative moods?
Well, then I would say, then you can't be in this business because this business requires moods. This is a business of moods. You can't be void of moods. You have to feel. So, I guess you would be in the wrong business.
Get into sales.
Sell satellite dishes. I guess.
How does an actor find the truth within themselves?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. I don't know how one finds the truth within themselves, really. Well, here it is. Okay. I believe the way you feel in private, and this was talked about in the Strasberg stuff, the Lee Strasberg Academy, they teach, from the point of view of yourself, right? You are the character, essentially. The way you are in your private moments, if you're willing to take a risk and show that in front of people. If you're willing to breathe and say, if I'm doing a scene that requires, if I'm directing an actor, and I care, I'm passionate about directing theater. If I'm going to direct them, I would say whenever you were in your most private moment, what did that? You had a human experience. You've never shared it with me. I guess good acting is: are you willing to publicly share that in disguised behind the playwright's intentions and his character? So the truth, I would say, is the willingness to show yourself to be what you are in the truest sense of your own privacy publicly.